won some games in recent weeks that it arguably did not deserve to. Now the team has seen the other side of that coin. Hello everybody, you are listening to Miami Total Football Radio, an Inter Miami focused podcast providing you all the latest news, updates, analysis, opinions, inside information, general punditry, and much more. We have been listened to in more than 50 countries and counting, which we take as a good sign, though it could just be that 50 plus countries have tuned in just to hear some of our shenanigans. We're also known as Miami Total Football Radio, and we are back for what should be the first of 2 episodes this week. My name is Franco Panizo. I am part of the usual co-hosting team, and joining me is another member of that group. He is the inimitable and famed Steve El Primo Brenner. Steve, how was your weekend? How did you celebrate the Mother's Day's festivities with the beloved Mrs. Primo, as you so hilariously enjoy calling her?
Thank you, mate. Good to be back. Shame I missed out last week. I was ready to talk for the length of time. I was actually stuck at the Miami City Hall waiting for the hostess in this 6-hour pod. But unfortunately, it was I was unavailable, sucked into a bit of Formula One, which was cool. I think I'll touch on that at the end. But, the good and the great for the Miami sports scene, including our very own co-owner David Beckham was there. There was a great picture of Beckham, Brady, Michael Jordan, and one other whose name escapes me now. Who else was there? I can't remember. It was Pharrell or something like that. Who was the most famous? And it was a tough call. Unfortunately, Phil Neville, I didn't see him there, and I think he had probably a few more pressing things on his mind rather than F1. I would have thought.
Well, there was a lot of people at the F1 event, man. Bad Bunny was there. David Beckham was there. Did you just say who when I said Bad Bunny?
Is that the guy? Is that a clothing line?
Are you being Primo sarcasm funny,
like
or
you don't know anything about music or anything that dates back from sort of 2000?
Brother, you live in South Florida. South Florida, and Bad Bunny's one of the hottest artists right now. Wow. Okay.
I don't even want to know.
I'll let the listeners judge for themselves your lack of understanding of who Bad Bunny is. I'm not saying you got to listen to Bad Bunny's music. I didn't say that at all. But if you don't know who Bad Bunny is and you live in South Florida in 2022, well. But anyway, there were a lot of people there. There were some Inter Miami players there. DeAndre Yedlin, Leonardo Campana. I believe Ariel Lassiter was also in attendance. Romeo Beckham, Inter Miami 2 player. So there was quite a few Inter Miami members in attendance. I think Chris Henderson was also there. But we're not going to talk about that. We are going to talk about Inter Miami's most recent game, which was a 1-0 loss to Charlotte FC. Of course, we will also preview the upcoming game on Tuesday night, the U.S. Open Cup match against South Georgia, Tormenta FC. We are going to do that with 2 special guests. One is Inter Miami goalkeeper Drake Callender, and the other is Tormenta FC's head coach, Ian Cameron, who's a pretty young head coach if you look at it from an age perspective. He's only 33. So, interesting story there. Both of them actually, I think you'll enjoy their interviews. They both shared some interesting remarks. Steve, we've got a lot to talk about. Do you want to add anything about your football manager? Because, let's be honest. I feel like when I was watching the stream of the public vote, the whole 6-hour thing, and I saw you in the background in one of the shots, I think I sent you a picture at one point on WhatsApp. It looked like you were playing Football Manager to me, man. It looked like your eyes were glossed over and you had to play some Football Manager.
No, I wasn't. There was some Inter Miami officials sat pretty close to me. So I think as Jorge Mas was giving a very impassioned plea about Miami Freedom Park, if they saw me rearranging my Borussia Dortmund under-19 team right in the middle of it, I think that wouldn't have gone down very well at all.
I wouldn't blame you if you had played, though, because parts of that I was like, all right, can we just get on with it? And I wasn't even there for the 6 hours, and I didn't even tune in for the 6 hours. I tuned in for the last 2 or 3 hours on the computer. I mean, I had it on throughout the day, but I really had it on, and I was keeping a closer eye the last two or so hours. And, I mean, I was just like, come on, man, can you guys just get on with it already? Wow. I mean, if you were in there, or if I was in there, maybe I would have played Football Manager and taken your laptop.
Especially not with Damien Lowe and Victor Aloa sitting very close to me. Again, that would not have been good. I felt sorry for those 2 guys because they were wheeled out, as sort of first team players, and then would literally start there for about 5 hours until they could eventually leave.
Hey, if you signed them in your Football Manager, maybe they would have been okay with it. Maybe they would have.
I have to sign one of them. I don't think either would get in my Borussia Dortmund team right now, but. These are the small details.
These are the small details. But, okay, Steve, It's that time. Let's get to it. Okay, guys, so as I mentioned before, Inter Miami took to the road on Saturday afternoon, the first ever trip for the franchise to Bank of America Stadium to take on expansion side Charlotte FC. Inter Miami came out in a, you could say a 4-3-3, or you could call it a 4-2-3-1. I will continue to insist that it's a 4-3-3, so this was the starting lineup. You had Drake, Callender at the back. Your back four from right to left: DeAndre Yedlin, Christopher McVeigh, the debuting Ryan Saylor, Kieran Gibbs returning to the lineup. Your midfield three were Jean Mota as the 6, Gregory and Bryce Duke ahead of him. And then your front three from right to left was the returning Indiana Vassilev, the healthy Leonardo Campana, and Robbie Robinson there on that left flank. Inter Miami loses 1-0 off a goal from Andre Shinyashiki in the 68th minute off of an assist from Jordi Reina. So that's the only goal in the game. Inter Miami played pretty well in this one. Actually, I'll take that back. They did not play pretty well, but they had the better chances. And they did have some good moments of football. They had some good moments with the ball. Better than what we've seen for a lot of this season, but no goals. They weren't able to put the ball into the back of the net, and that obviously cost them and proves their undoing. Steve, you watched the game. You kept an eye on it. What is your biggest takeaway or your overall analysis of the match?
Finish, just hit the keeper's legs, I think. The better chance was Vassilev just a little bit after that as well. You know, another decent save by the keeper, but maybe should have tested him a bit more. And it was always going to be one of those games, wasn't it? Just one goal either way. And unfortunately, you know, they conceded, and that was it. Kieran Gibbs had another chance, 52nd minute in the second half. So they were creating chances, and it's just on another day, you know, it could have gone in. It was just, it's a cliche, but just one of those games, unfortunately. And I think every time they kind of go behind, I don't fancy them to. Maybe that's my football manager anxiety creeping in. But once they go one down, they just never look like it. And I think you agree. Once they conceded, it didn't look like they were going to get back in it, did it?
Well, they've given up a few goals early this year, and then they've come back. And Atlanta was one game that I believe they gave up an early goal, and they came back and won. New England Revolution, they also gave up an early goal, and they came back and won. But for me in this game, from what we saw, I thought Inter Miami was the more dangerous of the two teams. I don't think they were the better team in terms of with the ball, playing with the ball, but they were more dangerous. They created the more clear-cut opportunities. And because of that, I don't think that they deserve to lose. I think a draw, at least a draw, would have been a more fair result for them given what we saw over the course of the 90 minutes. But that's part of the beautiful game. You can play well, or you can be the more dangerous team, and you can not win. And Inter Miami knows that as well as anyone, because some of the games they had won, you could say it's arguable, but some of the games they had won, they probably did not deserve to win. That New England Revolution game, where they won 3-2, Leonardo Campana hat-trick, that one probably deserved to finish in a tie, in a 2-2 tie, but then obviously the Revolution goalkeeper makes a mistake in the last few minutes, and Campana gets that third one, and Inter Miami comes out on top. So obviously Inter Miami deserved more out of this one, but they don't get it, despite having some great looks. Like, as you mentioned, Gibbs had 2, Vassilev had 1, and they just weren't able to put them away. Cristijan Kalina, the Charlotte FC goalkeeper, he came up with some pretty good saves and some game-saving stops. So obviously, it's a hard pill to swallow for Inter Miami, but if there's a silver lining, it's that they created some chances with some good football. They just obviously did not win. If they can repeat that, then that's a step in the right direction for this team, because they have not been all that dangerous with the ball for large stretches this year. And even when they have been, it's been more counterattacking. Some of these moments were some good combination play in the final third. That first Kieran Gibbs opportunity, if I'm not mistaken, comes from Bryce Duke feeding Gibbs. Gibbs hitting Robinson in the penalty area and Robinson receiving it and then laying it off back to Gibbs for the shot. So there were some good moments from Inter Miami, some better soccer, some better football, but again, no points to show for it. Now, before we jump into the attack, because there's plenty to talk about with regards to Inter Miami with the ball, let's start at the back, because there were some changes there, and I thought that was a big challenge for Inter Miami going into it. How would that backline hold up, given that Damian Lowe was suspended, Amema Bika was out injured, and Nick Marsman, who had been dealing with a back injury, he did not train last Tuesday, but he trained on Thursday, but he was a scratch. He was not with the team, so he was unavailable, and Drake Callender got the start instead. The backline held up pretty well. You mentioned it. Drake Callender was called upon quite a bit in that first opening half hour, but he made every save he had to make. He wasn't overly tested, but he made the saves he had to make. Ryan Saylor, the rookie, who was taken in the MLS draft in January, if I'm not mistaken, he makes his Inter Miami first team debut after playing with the second team over the past couple of weeks. What did you think of his performance? I thought he was very, very solid in his first game at the MLS level.
Yeah, solid. Dependable. He looks pretty okay on the ball. Just had that sort of all-round sort of game, defensive game, which you think could definitely works in MLS. There's probably nothing massively outstanding about him, but just did the solid things pretty well, really. But it is a problem moving forward, isn't it? That's why they want to try and get as big a rosters as possible to make sure that when they do get injuries, they're not shortchanged. And it's difficult. Once you get 2 or 3 injuries in key positions, you're then sort of scrapping around trying to find the requisite quality to come back in. But I thought he did pretty well.
He showed some good composure and calmness with the ball, especially for his first game away from home with the Charlotte FC faithful there, and they obviously turned out a good amount of fans, and their stadium was rocking from all accounts. I wasn't there, but from what I've heard, it was a rocking house. And he there was one play where he went on a marauding dribbling run forward, and he showed some composure to get into the attacking half and the attacking third. So I liked what I saw from the rookie. It's one game, so let's not get carried away. But the early returns are encouraging, and if he can maintain this level, then that makes it very interesting for Phil Neville at the back, because he's got quite a few options. They're not all healthy, they're not all available right now, but he's got quite a few options back there. Damian Lowe, Amema Bika, Ryan Saylor, Christopher McVeigh, Jairo Quinteros. There's quite a few options to choose from. So we'll see if Ryan Saylor can keep this up. He might have to start again on Tuesday night in the Open Cup game. Obviously, Jairo Quinteros is available for that match, the Bolivian international, because he has served his 1-game suspension in MLS play. Available for the Open Cup game. Does Phil Neville stick with Saylor after the debut, or does he go to Quinteros? It'll be an interesting decision. We'll see what he does there. But again, early returns for Ryan Saylor were positive. Indiana Vassilev. He returns to Inter Miami, Steve. A player that scored some goals, some key goals last year on loan from Aston Villa. He returns again on loan, on a season-long loan, through the rest of the MLS campaign. We thought he had been part of the purge, the roster purge that happened this offseason, but Inter Miami reacquires him, and he makes his debut within a matter of a few days. Now, he was announced late last week after we recorded, so this is the first time we're talking about his reintegration into the group, but he also had his season debut. So let's start with his return. What do you think it means? What do you think him coming back to Inter Miami means for him, and what it means for the state of the roster?
Well, another body, isn't it? He's pretty versatile. He's not like a guy that I think he is a guy that could potentially be a guaranteed first team starter. I think he's lively, he's energetic, gets up and down the pitch pretty well. He's got good experience. He's come from Aston Villa, didn't really get a look in there. They signed Philippe Coutinho, and there was a change of manager, so he's never really going to get a look in. It's clear that's where he wanted to stay. When we spoke to him, I thought he was a little bit sort of spiky about that. I think he probably hurts a bit that he wasn't really wanted there, but great for Inter Miami. I think at this level he's a really good player, and I think it gives Phil Neville a lot of options. You can even, I think defensively he could do pretty well as well. I think he's athletic, he's pretty durable. So I think it's a positive move, and also knows the club, knows the the people behind the scenes. So that also helps in terms of settling in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That familiarity will be key for him, and it will be key for the team. And it was key because he walked back into the lineup after just a couple of days of being in South Florida and being back with the team. He obviously knows Phil Neville. Phil Neville knows him from having been on, having worked together last year in 2021. So, look, for me, what it says that they reacquired him is that they're not overly convinced with the starting wingers that they have. That's just how I read it. That's how I interpret it. Obviously, Ariel Lassiter and Robbie Robinson have gotten the bulk of the starts out wide. But neither has been overly convincing through, what are we at, 10, 11 games that Inter Miami has played so far this season. They've had their moments, but neither has been overly convincing. The introduction or the reintroduction of Indiana Vassilev to me says they need more competition there. They need another potential starting caliber player there. And if he went back into the lineup or he was put into the lineup on a few days' notice or on short notice after arriving back in South Florida on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves me correct, then I think that speaks to them looking for more in the attack, looking more out of the wing position. Because Inter Miami is a team that, up to this point, when it's enjoyed some success in the attacking third, it's come from wide play, finding Campana or finding the striker in the middle. It's, DeAndre Yedlin's cross against the Seattle Sounders, Ariel Lassiter and Robbie Robinson feeding Campana against the New England Revolution. The goals have a pretty proven formula up until this point. So if Inter Miami is going to be a team that stresses wide play, then it needs more effective wide play. It's something we've talked about in recent pods. I was critical of Ariel Lassiter against the Seattle Sounders. Robbie Robinson hasn't been great. He hasn't been great. And we will touch on that in just a bit. But now going back to Vassilev here, in terms of his performance, what did you think of what you saw from him against Charlotte FC?
Yeah, well, wasn't able to get in the game entirely, was he? But showed some nice chances. But again, the margins are so fine, aren't they? If we would have put that chance away, then we'd have been talking about different ways. What a signing. Blah blah. He's what an effect he's had. But shows that he can get into the box. He's got goals in his locker. He was in the right positions. It was just, like I say, just one of those days where it just couldn't sort of break down Charlotte, especially after they scored. They went pretty defensive. It was hard to get a sort of a grip into the game. So we've only got a small sample size to deal with now. Be interested to see what kind of team he plays in the cup this midweek. I think that's just a good opportunity for these guys to get some real more minutes under their belt against a lower opposition team and to really sort of stake a claim for the next match.
I thought he had some good attacking ideas. I thought he brought a different element than maybe Ariel Lassiter or Robbie Robinson do when they're out there. A little bit more football, a little bit more soccer. Wasn't perfect, and he wasn't wow, but he brought a different element, and I think that's much needed for Inter Miami. Obviously, should have put that goal away, the one opportunity he had, or he should have done better on there. But even with that, and even though they lost, I think it was a positive return for him, something to build on, and something that Phil Neville will, on the balance, have enjoyed. But I think this Inter Miami team, even though it had its moments in this game, I acknowledge and recognize that it had its moments in this game with the ball, it's still by and large in the attack looks a bit lost and doesn't look to have that many attacking ideas. And you could look at a bunch of different players. When did Robbie Robinson have a stupendous game this year? When has Ariel Lassiter had a stupendous game this year? When is Jean Mota, one of the key offseason additions? When have we seen him deliver an incredible game this season? Or a very good game this season? Robert Taylor, another one.
Game when him and Robert Taylor, wasn't it against Atlanta, that the game at home when they won?
I wasn't that sold on him. He played. I know Phil Neville was high on him, and he played. That was the first game that Jean Mota occupied this number 6 role that he's been playing in as of late. But I wasn't fully enamored with the performance I saw. But that's just my opinion, my analysis. I think there's still more that needs to be given from these players, whether it's Jean Mota, Robert Taylor, Lassiter, Robbie Robinson. There's more that they need to give this team, because this team is amongst those in the league with fewest goals. And again, Campana he's scored 5 of the 9 goals that Inter Miami has to this point in the season. Two others have come from Gonzalo Higuain. One has come from Robbie Robinson. And the other one has come from... trying to think off the top of my head here. Help me if you can.
I can't.
Okay. Well, there's another goal in there somewhere. Somebody has a goal, and I don't know why I'm blanking. I actually spoke to this.
Red Shake?
No.
Bryce Duke?
Bryce Duke. There you go. Good job. Yes, Bryce Duke. Yes. Good job, Steve. Yes. See? I had just talked to my brother about this yesterday, and I had named all of them. I can't believe I couldn't remember it, but good assist there. Very good. But regardless, again, this team still with the ball, to me, showed improvements in this game. That's something to build on, something that you could take as a positive, but it needs to do more of that, because often in this game still, when they had the ball, didn't look that clear with it, looked sloppy at times. I know it's still a work in progress, but that has to improve. Something else that I think has to improve before we switch gears to a different topic is Inter Miami's defensive transitioning. And I want your thoughts on this, Steve, because we haven't spoken about this, not even via chat. What are your thoughts on how they've played in terms of their defensive transitioning? Because when Inter Miami's in a block, when the other team has the ball and the other team's trying to break them down, Inter Miami has done, at least during this recent stretch, a solid job of being tough to break down, or more tough to break down than it was maybe at the start of the season. But when they have the ball, and then they give up the ball, that's when there's a lot of spaces in behind, and I don't think they're great at defensive transitioning, at least as of late. The Charlotte FC goal comes off of them losing the ball in the final third, not getting back into shape quickly enough. Phil Neville noted that post-game, and then Jordi Reyna hits in a good cross in from Charlotte FC's left flank to the back post, and the ball is pushed home or fired home. But when Charlotte had its better attacking moments, they moved the ball well, they passed the ball well, but they didn't create a lot from those strings of possession. When they had their better moments, even in the first half, in my opinion, my analysis, was when Inter Miami lost the ball cheaply and Charlotte FC counterattacked. And they couldn't turn those opportunities into goal-scoring chances or even goals because a lot of their touches were off. Like, it was really bad in the first half. I even tweeted out something like, is the turf monster out there? Because they were falling over. Charlotte FC players were falling over. They weren't controlling the ball cleanly, despite being open. If they had been a little bit more polished, I think they could have tested Drake Callender a bit more in that first half. But they weren't. But again, the overall point is that I think Inter Miami, in terms of their defensive transitions, they've been struggling there. And that's going to be key on Tuesday, because Inter Miami is expected to have the ball against an inferior opponent, and they're going to have to either break them down very quickly to get those goals and take the lead and have a comfortable feeling throughout the game. If they don't, then they have to be very, very wary of the defensive transitioning, because up until now, as of late, I think that's been a weakness.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about confidence for some of it as well, isn't it? If you've got a brand new back line, as we did see at definitely changes anyway. There's not going to be the confidence there to stop, spraying the ball around and knocking it. They're going to get it, and then they're going to keep on, just keep moving the ball, maybe going a bit more direct sometimes. So I think that probably affects the transitioning. As you said, it's not as smooth, but then when you make changes in the defence, that's gonna happen. I also don't think the turf helps at all. So again, supposedly inferior opposition on Tuesday night, they're probably going to have more time on the ball. So you're going to be able to see them maybe moving it between the blocks in a better, more sort of rapid way than we probably did see on Saturday, when they were kind of it was so tight up against it. Maybe that was the kind of game where it didn't call for so much possession at the back, and maybe they went maybe a little bit more direct because they thought that was probably going to be more fruitful for them moving forward. Now,
defensively, obviously, when you transition, the back line has to be tight and has to do its job, but it's also on the midfielders to get back in position as well. And again, it's team thing, I think, and I think that's where they've had a few letdowns as of late. That's where they've been weak, especially against Charlotte. Charlotte didn't score until the second half, but in that first half, when they started to look dangerous, was not necessarily when they had the ball, it was when they started to hit back in quick counterattacks. So something I'm sure Phil Neville will look to be fine-tuning and addressing ahead of Tuesday night's match, and then obviously this weekend's match against DC United. I want to touch on one more player in specific, and that's Robbie Robinson. Primo, what have you thought about Robbie Robinson's season? Because I'm of the belief now that he's starting to enter bust territory in terms of him being a draft pick and living up to expectations or not. I'm of the belief, I'm not saying he's there yet, but I'm of the belief that he's starting to enter bust territory. I just don't see enough from him from the run of play. Don't see enough from him in the final third. I'm just not seeing enough. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I ask you, Steve, is Robbie Robinson starting to enter bust territory?
Well, I think it's quite telling, isn't it? That every time we asked, or people have asked Phil Neville about Robbie Robinson, he's given very short, snappy answers as if he's irritated
yes.
by the fact that, he's waiting for this player to come out, and it's just not happening. And it's a shame because we do see it in little fits and spurts, but you would have thought with Pizarro not there or Matuidi or any of these guys that this was a chance for him to really step up. He is still a young player, but he's got 2 seasons under his belt.
This is year 3. Yeah. He needs to be now. He needs to be producing. It's not like okay, he's growing into the professional game. I mean, I'm sure he still is, but it's year 3, and these players are paid to produce, and he's not producing as an attacking player. And just from a statistic standpoint, and I'm sorry I interrupted you, but just from a statistic standpoint, it's clearly not there. The production hasn't been there. And then for me, from an eye test, I also don't see it, but maybe you see a little bit more from the eye test. I don't know what your thoughts are about his overall play.
No, he's doing the bare minimum, isn't he, to sort of stay in the team without really producing week in, week out. And I think that's why Phil Neville's getting irritated, and he does need to step up because when Campagna or didn't find the net like he didn't on Saturday, you need other guys to sort of weigh in. Maybe Vasilev coming back will give him a sort of rocket up his backside that he needs to to sort of take his game on. But I don't think this is a team where you can just carry players. Everyone needs to sort of be producing decent performances, for the gain of the whole team. And it's just not happening for him right now, and I think that's why Phil Neville's getting pretty exasperated with him at the moment.
But he keeps starting him though. That's like
I don't think he has a choice, does he? I mean,
now he's got Indiana Vasilev, so now he's got another piece, and he has Emerson Rodriguez, so you could say Emerson Rodriguez could be an option. Though Phil Neville's comments throughout the course of the season have made it seem like Rodriguez is more of a longer term project, and I think we've seen that because he's only played mostly in 10-minute or so cameos off the bench. But nonetheless, there are more options now with Vasilev in. But I agree with you in that Robinson's not producing. And look, just to analyze his game against Charlotte, I saw a player that wants to take people on, but doesn't do so aggressively enough or assertively enough. He slows the rhythm down. Like, what is one of Robbie Robinson's, or what would you say is Robbie Robinson's key strength as a player, from what you've seen?
I think he's pretty quick.
He's pretty quick. Right, absolutely, 100%. And I'm going to cut you off there. He's pretty quick. Yet when he dribbles with the ball and he faces up against the defender in a one-on-one situation, he doesn't use that speed. You don't see him try to blaze by the guy. You see him try to do feints, or maybe not feints. You see him slow down on the ball, and you see him try to do a cut back here or a cut back there, and he just slows down the attack and slows down the rhythm of the attack, when one of his key strengths is speed on the ball, or speed in general. So I get that he's being probably tasked with going at players one-on-one situations, but he has to use that speed more. He's not a player that has the most dribbling skills. It's not like he's juking players left and right. Yes, he can pull off a nifty cutback here and there, but it's not like he's doing the scissor feints or anything of the like. So he's not using his strengths, which is his speed, and then he's also slowing the attack down. And on top of that, something that this is just my personal opinion and my analysis, he goes it alone way too often. Way too often. And it's frustrating to watch. I can imagine Phil Neville, he might not voice it publicly, but I can imagine Phil Neville's pretty frustrated because Robbie Robinson goes it alone. He opts to just try to play individually more often than not. Like, the last resort is a pass. It seems like it. Like, the last resort for him is a pass. There was one play in was it in the second half? It was the first half. Maybe it was the first half. Yeah, in the first half, where he dribbles down the flank and he cuts inside, and he keeps dribbling before passing the ball to maybe Jean Mota or somebody, but he brought his mark closer to Jean Mota, and it's not a soccer savvy play. Move the ball, free yourself, get into the open space instead of bringing your mark closer to the guy you're passing it to and giving him less space to operate in. It's been very, very frustrating watching Robbie Robinson on Saturday and over the course of his time at Inter Miami. And I do think it's not time yet to put the label of bust on him as a rookie draft pick, but he's getting close because he's starting to get close because he needs to start producing. Higuain's not out there anymore, so if Higuain was weighing on him because of his persona and his personality, then that excuse now is out the window because he's playing with Leonardo Campana and Indiana Vassilev, Ariel Lasser. He's playing with different players. So, he absolutely has to step up, and if he doesn't, very soon, I could definitely see him fall out of the team because at least Ariel Lassiter, for as limited as he is in the final third, and I was critical of him after the Seattle Sounders game for how poor he was there and how he wasted opportunities, at least he gives you a threat because he's direct and he knows he's direct and he races forward and gives you that weapon. And he's also decent at combining with DeAndre Yedlin from what we've seen so far. So Robbie Robinson needs to show more. If he doesn't, absolutely think Phil Neville will drop him from the lineup. I think he should drop him, to be honest with you. I think it's time. The fact that he keeps going to him maybe is a sign of a lack of options. But I think we're getting close to the time where Robbie Robinson may be dropped from the lineup. Anything you want to add there? Otherwise, we're switching gears.
It's a shame because there is a good player in there. There is a player in there somewhere. It's just trying to get him out, I guess.
I don't. I've said this since game 1 in 2020. From a personal preference standpoint, just my optics, and I'm not a scout, but I just don't see a lot of qualities there that will translate to being a regular starter in MLS. I don't see it. Maybe
he's physical,
maybe
he's good. He's not bad on the ball.
But he's not technical. He's not a technical player. He rarely uses that left foot. Rarely. He slows the play down when he should be an explosive player that uses his speed. He's not necessarily the most crafty dribbler, but yet he decides to try to dribble and he over dribbles and takes too many touches. I have very serious questions about Robbie Robinson. And look, I believe, and this is MLS rules, so this could be a bit difficult to explain, but he's on a Generation Adidas contract from when he was signed as a prospect coming out of college. So I believe he does not count against the cap and throughout the duration of this initial contract with MLS and with Inter Miami, I believe. So that could be a reason why they keep him another year or so. But if he wasn't on that type of deal, if he was on a regular rookie type of deal, I think they would have parted ways with him.
Sure.
Maybe this past winter or at some point this season because he's just not producing. And these players, that's what they're paid to do. They're paid to produce. It's a simple way of looking at it, and it could sound harsh and cold, but that's what they're paid to do. They're paid to go out there on the field and produce, and we have not seen that from Robbie Robinson through 2 years and some change, not consistently anyway. Quickly, let's touch on 2 more things before we end this segment. One of them is set pieces, something I asked Phil Neville about after the game. We touched on corners. He made a good point that Inter Miami, because of the way they play, is not generating a whole lot of corner kicks this season. That's a good point. But overall, they do have other set pieces. They have other free kicks. So if you combine all that, Inter Miami still has not scored a goal from those set pieces, from those dead ball situations this year. And we are now 10 games into the season, so we're almost a third of the way there. Inter Miami historically, and I've had to bang this drum over the last 2+ seasons, has not been good at set pieces, historically. It took them until late in 2020 to do so, to score off of a set piece. It took them late into 2021 to start doing so, although they did score off of a few there late on, maybe 2, 3, or 4, something along those lines. I'd have to really go back and look. This year, they have not scored off of a dead ball situation like that. Yes, penalty kicks, but I'm removing penalty kicks from this equation. They signed tall center backs this offseason with the idea that they wanted to be more dangerous on set pieces, something that was said in preseason, I think by Chris Henderson, if I'm not mistaken again. My memory might be a little faulty right now. It's Monday, so I'm still shaking off the weekend cobwebs. But they still haven't scored off a set piece, and that has to improve. Because even if you only have a few corner kicks or a few free kicks to whip in, if you're a team that is not generating all that much from the run of play, generally speaking, then there has to be a premium on your set pieces. Especially when you have a member of the staff that has the title set piece specialist. Your thoughts, Steve?
Well, yeah, I mean, like you say, they're a big team when you think of Mabika and you think of Damien Lowe and then Campagna. They've got some big sort of units in there, so they should be doing much better, I guess. Yeah. That's where the set piece guy earns his corn. I guess it is a new team in terms of this season. So, but yeah, it needs to be bearing its fruit, now really, because they're the kind of just marginal gains that that can win or lose matches, can win titles. It's just everything. It's those little bits, and they need all the goals that they can find, because sometimes from open play they find it difficult to score.
Exactly, and that's why I think even though they might not produce that much or get that many calls or whatever, they still need to put. There's more of a premium for them to put some of those chances, start turning some of those chances, or turning some of those opportunities into chances and into goals. Right now, Inter Miami has 9 goals through 10 games. That is second lowest in the Eastern Conference. Chicago Fire is the only team behind Inter Miami in that regard, and no coincidence, Chicago Fire is in 14th and last place in the East. Inter Miami's in 13th. So that has to improve that regard, absolutely, because that will help open things up for a team that, from an attacking standpoint, is limited. So I think they need to find a way. They have the targets now. They have taller players. They have a few more of them. Obviously, they're not all on the field at the same time. I don't know if it's the delivery of the set piece taker. I mean, I'd have to really analyze it more, but they need to start finding a way to become more dangerous from that aspect of play. It's something they said they wanted to do at the start of the year, and we still have not seen that. So another area where Inter Miami is falling short. But anyway, Steve, let's leave it there. We'll take a quick break. We're going to come back and get to our interviews with Ian Cameron and Drake Callender. We will do that after this.
I feel as if it's not a result that we deserve. There's times when you lose a game as a coach, maybe Cincinnati or things like that, where you've just got to take your hands up and said we were beaten by the better team. I didn't think that tonight. I thought we were the better team, and there was lots of positive to take from this game. And we're entering a stretch of games now where we just need to keep that level of performance and keep getting better, but be more ruthless. We need to score them chances that we're getting. We need to put them in the back of the net, and the game would have been finished. So that's my disappointment. I've told the players that I was disappointed at the end of the game to lose the game, but not disappointed in their efforts or their commitment to try and get something from the game or to try and get a result.
Okay, everybody, it's time to preview Tuesday night's game between Inter Miami and Tormenta FC with a member of Inter Miami. He is goalkeeper Drake Callender, who got the start this past weekend in the 1-0 loss to Charlotte FC. Probably a good shout to start again on Tuesday, given that he started against Miami FC, but we'll see what decision Phil Neville goes with. But nonetheless, Drake, thank you so much for joining us, especially on Mother's Day. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I mean, of course, Sunday is always like the end of the week. We were in today for recovery after our match yesterday, and just getting prepared for the next week. But overall, body's feeling good, mind's feeling good, and ready to get after it again.
And you've already started that recovery and starting the new week process by going to the beach on Sunday morning. Tell us a little bit about your visit to the beach, because I imagine you guys traveled back, yesterday evening, last night, and then probably went to sleep, and then today waking up early and getting everything ready again.
Yeah, I mean, we got back not too late last night. Was able to get, my normal amount of sleep in, just normally 7 to 8 hours. But we were in an hour later today, so I saw an opportunity to wake up and go to the ocean, get in the water. Something that I enjoy doing, just because I feel like it's good for my body and also good for my mental health. Being able to wake up, get my vitamin D, get my sunshine, helps out with my circadian rhythm, and also just to get in the water. The water is somewhat warm. It's maybe for some it's a little too cold, but for me, I think it's a good temperature. So just to do a little bit of swimming, it's low pressure on the joints and on the body. So it's just a great way to start the day. Being able to connect with nature like that.
And you like the beach. You're a California kid, so you definitely enjoy a good beach day. I feel like a lot of the social media posts I've seen of you since you've been with Inter Miami has been at the beach.
Yeah, growing up in Northern California, most of the beach days were a little bit chilly.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely when I spent time in SoCal, I'd go to the beach, but I was a big forests and mountains guy growing up. So the beach has kind of filled that connection to nature for me.
Nice.
And yeah, it's a little different, but it's grown on me
nice.
Since my time here.
Okay. Well, yeah, I feel like I've seen quite a few posts, so definitely feel like if you guys want to see Drake Callender out of Inter Miami gear, just go to the beach. You're bound to run into him at some point. Drake, just quickly diving into it because I don't want to take up too much of your time. Before we jump into Tuesday night's game, I want to talk about, obviously, Saturday afternoon, almost a Saturday night, but Saturday afternoon against Charlotte FC. It was a hard-fought effort. I agree with Phil Neville in that I don't think you guys deserve to lose. You guys had the clearer chances, but obviously the 1-0 result that does not go your way, your favor. What's your analysis now that you've had a little bit more time to digest and think about it? And I don't know if we've watched the game or we watched the highlights, but just what have you thought about the game now a few more hours removed?
Yeah, overall, I think it was a really competitive game. There's a lot of chances on both sides. I think playing away from home, without home field advantage, it was important for us to be composed and to handle the pressure well. I felt like everyone was pretty comfortable on the ball. It's turf, but it's something that we have to adapt to throughout the year just because not all fields are going to be the same. So it was really just having a good mentality going into the game and really just applying the pressure even away from home and just making sure that we're doing the basics right, covering each other, winning second balls, 50-50s. And I think overall there was a lot of really good moments, but also some things that we can improve on.
Was that the toughest part of it? The toughest, I guess, what made the pill most bitter to swallow is that you guys at least probably deserved a point out of it. I think that's, even I've talked to some Charlotte people that work for the team over there, and everyone that watched the game can say Inter Miami had the clear chances. Does that make it a bit harder to swallow the defeat, not even getting a point out of a very valiant, very hard fought effort on the road?
Yeah, this game was a big opportunity for us. I think any point that we can gain, whether it's a tie or a win, is going to help us in the long run. And it's a long season, but every single game matters. So I think for us, for how we played, we felt like we deserved more. But that's sports. Sometimes you're able to come through with points, and sometimes you don't. And credit to Charlotte for also having a good performance. They fought really hard, and it was a really fun game to be in. At the end, you wish you had that feeling of getting the points and winning. But regardless, we have to I guess swallow that hard pill and keep moving forward because we have a 7-game month. So you have to figure out how we're going to react and respond to this going forward.
Now, quickly, you touched on it being a fun game to be a part of. They kept you pretty busy, at least in the first half, the first 20, 25 minutes, maybe even 30 or so. They had quite a few shots you grabbed onto, I think, every single one of them. Even the commentators on the broadcast in Spanish were saying, "Tiene un imán en la guantes," which means you had a magnet in your gloves because the ball just kept catching it. It wasn't even like you had to parry him away. It was you were catching the ball. For you, obviously, as one of the backup goalkeepers that doesn't start every single game, how have you felt? And I think I asked you this after the Miami FC game. How have you felt about your individual performances? Obviously, it's a bit of a challenge when you're not playing regularly to come in and find that rhythm and be able to pick it up. But you've done a good job at it. So how have you felt overall about your individual performances, especially after Saturday?
Yeah, I was somewhat pleased. There's always things that, you feel like you could have done better at. Being a goalkeeper, there's always something, whether it's your positioning, whether, to your depth on the line, your decision making. There's always something that you feel like you can improve. But overall, I felt like I had a lot of confidence yesterday, and I was able to, help my team stay in the game. I think my defense did really well too. Like they didn't really have many chances inside the box except for the goal. So they did a good job of ensuring that a lot of the chances that they had came outside the box. And I felt pretty comfortable with the shots that I faced yesterday. And again, I always think of how I can help out my team. And sometimes if I'm able to hold on to the ball, then again, that just kills the play. And we don't have to worry about a corner kick or a rebound. And so that was something that, I think after the first couple saves, it kind of gave me a lot of confidence, and it helped me throughout the game.
Yeah. Now, it was a bit of a surprise for a lot of us on the outside to see you get the start. Obviously, Nick Marsman has been dealing with somewhat of an injury, but he did train on Thursday from what we could see. So we were on the outside fully expecting Nick Marsman to start. He didn't. You got the nod. When did you know you were starting against Charlotte FC?
Pretty much on Friday.
Okay.
It was kind of a quick turnaround, but you're always ready at this level. Anything can happen. And that is something that, being a backup is, you don't know when you may get the shout, you don't know when your opportunity can come, but when your opportunity does come, you better make sure that you're ready. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of been a theme for me this year, is just being prepared for that opportunity. And I was glad I was able to come in and make an impact.
Yeah. Now, I do want to ask you about one moment in particular, and this goes back to preseason. And there was only three of us that watched the game against CF Montreal. And it was a preseason game. There's a lot of changes, a lot of substitutions that are made. So that obviously interrupts the flow of the game. But you committed 2 errors late on in that one. And then, Inter Miami lost that game 2-1 in part because of those mistakes. How much did you learn from that? Even though it's preseason, even though it's not in front of a full house, even though it's not as much pressure, I'm sure the coaching staff talked to you afterwards. I've heard that the coaching staff talked to you about that game. How much did that help you and get that lesson learned in preseason as opposed to maybe in the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, that was a turning point for me. I learned so much about decision-making, game management, focus, readiness. And yeah, in that moment, looking back, I'm like, oh man, I wish I had done something different. But really, in hindsight, I had to experience maybe a low point like that in order to build the grit and the motivation and the discipline and determination to get better. And ever since that game, it's kind of fueled me to work hard every single day and ensure that I don't put myself in those positions or our team in those positions. And so it makes me think about, like, maybe that was supposed to happen in order for me to learn that lesson and in order to grow.
Right.
So as hard as it was in the moment, I think everything happens for a reason, and it was a big wake-up call for me on the things that I need to work on, and also for my career, like what direction I'm headed in. Am I going to allow that to affect the rest of the season and my confidence and my belief in myself, or am I going to use that to get better and grow as a player, and really just continue to keep developing? Because I think we're always learning, as we grow in the sport.
And you've definitely rebounded in a good way, and your appearances this season again have done a fairly good job. I don't recall any major mistakes in the 3 games you've played, 2 in MLS and then 1 in the Open Cup. Now switching gears to the Open Cup. Mm-hmm. I imagine you stand a good chance. Just me reading from the outside, if you got to start in the first game against Miami FC, you got to start this past weekend. Maybe Phil's looking to give you that little bit of rhythm before going again on Tuesday. You guys are at home. You guys won the first game of the Open Cup against Miami FC, a hard-fought win. You guys were tested. I remember you were the MVP. I think Leonardo Campana, the goal scorers always get the love, but I think you were the real MVP of that game because you kept Inter Miami from going down and even from losing that game. So you allowed Leonardo da Campana's goal to stand as a winner because you kept Inter Miami on level terms. But that said, with the chance to potentially start again on Tuesday, this time at home, I imagine you guys haven't done much video work yet, but what do you expect from Tuesday? Is this a game where Inter Miami has to focus on itself, or what do you think will be the key to Tuesday night?
Yeah, I think just playing our game, regardless of who our opponent is, whether it's a USL League One team, a USL Championship team, or an MLS team, we have to play our game and we have to show out for our fans. It's home field advantage. We're in the next round, and regardless of who we're lining up against, we have to stick to our game plan and perform. And yeah, we're in the MLS side, facing a team in a lower league, but at the end of the day, like, it's a game of soccer and anything can happen. So we have to prepare ourselves mentally and physically in order to come out with a win.
Yeah. And now, how important is it for you guys to be, obviously, you guys are the MLS team. You guys are the favorites on paper. I spoke to Tormenta FC's coach. He even said there's no hiding that there's a difference in quality from MLS team to Tormenta FC. So he's expecting you guys to have the ball. But with that, as we saw against Charlotte FC, how important is it to, when you have the ball, if you lose the ball, to very quickly get back into shape? I'm sure Phil has probably stressed that. If he hasn't, probably will tomorrow. Because, again, from the outside, we're imagining that you will have the ball. Inter Miami will have the ball. But there will probably be times where you lose the ball with a bad pass or just a turnover that they force. And it's about that transition defense, which obviously proved costly against Charlotte FC. So how important will that transition defense be on Tuesday night, given that, again, you guys are expected to be the protagonists, the ones that are dictating the tempo?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be huge, like, whenever there's a change of possession, getting back into our compact shape or stopping the counterattack. These are moments that teams can take advantage of. And so if we're organized and we're all on the same page and we're communicating, I think when we do lose the ball, that, if we can react faster and cover each other, that we will give our chance of keeping the clean sheet and also getting the ball back and maintaining possession throughout the game.
I don't know if you guys have had a real chance to discuss it as a team, but do you guys chalk that up there on Saturday? Do you chalk it up to just shutting off and not having the concentration as a group? Or was it a little bit of fatigue at that point in the game? So obviously later on in the second half, a combination of both. What do you attribute the lack of defensive transitioning there? What that you guys have to make sure is there on Tuesday?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really just moments of the game and recognizing, when we maybe need to take a strategic foul. Maybe it's just simply we just need to get back faster. And I can't necessarily say it's on one person because it's all a team effort. But overall, it's just like the grit and the ruthlessness to keep the ball out of the back of the net and to also put the ball in the back of the net. And so that's something that, above tactics and all that, we need to have the mentality of winning games. And that's just hard work, running for each other, covering each other, supporting each other. And these are all things that are controllable, and that's what we're going to focus on.
Now, to begin rounding out, you guys had a new center-back tandem on Saturday with Christopher McVeigh and the debuting Ryan Saylor, who did a very good job. I thought that was one of the biggest challenges for you guys going into the game, given that chemistry is not down pat yet, that you guys don't have those movements synchronized to a high level because you guys haven't played with that group in meaningful games yet, but you guys held up well for the most part. Tuesday, again, center backs are out. Damian Lowe is out with a red card. Jairo Quinteros returns. He was out for the MLS game, but he's around for selection for the Open Cup game. Regardless, whoever Phil Neville goes with, it'll probably be a new partnership. How confident are you in the guys you have in front of you, given performances like Saturday where you even have a debuting player, a rookie, and he's in there stepping in and doing a good job?
Yeah, I mean, I'm confident in all my teammates. I mean, I know everyone shows up every single day. I know how hard everybody works. I know everyone does their homework, and I think the communication factor is huge because when you support each other, when you evaluate each other off the field and on the field, then your bond gets stronger. And that's something that we've been working really hard at, is making sure that our bonds off the field are really strong. So then when we get on the field, whether it's a new player in like a new position, someone who's debuting, that they have the confidence that the guy next to them is going to work hard for them, and and they're going to work hard for the guy next to them too. So it's really just about supporting each other. And yeah, there's going to be moments where emotions may get high, and you might have to get on each other, but at the end of the day, it's all because we want to win. So there has to be the support, as well as just like a healthy form of criticism. We're all trying to get better, but sometimes you might need to be a little more stern with each other. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Amay Mabik is also out, probably because of the injury he picked up against the New England Revolution. Drake, before we let you go, I got two more for you. One is on, obviously, I've asked you more defensive questions because you're a goalkeeper, you're back there. Communication is key, especially when you have new pieces coming in. But obviously, you need goals to win games. And this game, you guys are at home. Felt like you guys were at home last time against Miami FC because it felt like most of the stadium was in pink and black. However, again, home crowd will be behind you this time. You'll be dictating the tempo surely again, but that ball needs to go into the back of the net. Otherwise, we might see penalty kicks. How important is it for you guys to dictate the tempo? What kind of game should we expect from Inter Miami?
Yeah, I think it's of course, calm and composed, but just aggressive, maintaining possession in the other team's half, and letting the ball do the work, really, and just getting our attacking players in the right areas and the right positions to get goals and really capitalize on the chances that we create. And so, yeah, I think that again with home field advantage, we're gonna have some really good momentum, and we've actually been having more training sessions in our stadium. So I think just the general feeling that we have when we're on the field in the stadium, I think our team is getting more confident there. So I think just overall, just to expect a really hard-fought game, and we're really going to do everything we can, from myself all the way through to our number 9, to win the game, score goals, and keep a shutout.
Yeah. Then my last one for you, Drake, and we appreciate you for coming on here, is obviously this game can go to penalty kicks if it's tied. So that could be a big moment. And I like asking this question because obviously MLS games, you don't go to penalty kicks if the game finishes tied.
Yeah.
Have you guys practiced penalty kicks? Did you guys practice penalty kicks before the Miami FC game? Because obviously there's two schools of thought from coaches. One that says you have to practice penalty kicks just to get the movements down pat, just the shooting. But there's another train of thought that says, well, you can't really replicate a penalty kick pressure pack situation in training because there's not a stadium full of people around you. There's not the moment of if you miss it, you're out. So did you guys practice penalty kicks before Miami FC? And have you envisioned or thought about that possibility at all?
Yeah, I mean, we always have to prepare ourselves for whatever the game is going to bring.
Sure.
And of course, in the Open Cup, like you said, if it's at a tie through overtime, then it can go to penalty kicks. So yeah, we may not be in a stadium full of cheering fans, and the pressure may be a little different, but just even, setting the ball on the spot, adding the muscle memory and the visualization to it, you can start to gain an edge in that moment of the game if it comes to that, So yeah, practicing is huge, regardless if it's in a game or not, because if we're able to practice PKs and guys are able to get the feeling and kind of get their steps right, and practice penalty kicks, and I think it's going to help if it comes to that.
And for a goalkeeper, of course, obviously, you're just stopping the shots. You won't practice against the opponents you might have in front of you, but it's still good to get those movements down pat as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's always just getting the timing right, doing the homework, trying to figure out if the player has any tells, and just really just being confident in whichever way you decide to go. And also, in the moment, just reading the player, and if you have a gut feeling or if you see something that may, guide you towards one side than just to be aware of all the little details, because you never know when you might need to act on it. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, all the details do matter, and Inter Miami will play Tormenta FC on Tuesday. I keep getting my days confused. On Tuesday at Drive Pink Stadium in Fort Lauderdale. A win or go home match for both sides. Tormenta says, their head coach said they're going to try to come out and play a bit. So it should be an interesting matchup. See who wins in that battle of chess. Drake, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, especially on Mother's Day. We really appreciate it. Good luck on Tuesday, and we will talk to you again very, very soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
That's Drake Callender, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a quick break, and we will come back after this.
We could have Robert Taylor back. We could have Gonzalo Higuain back for Tuesday. So in terms of sort of like Mo Adams, Victor Ulloa, Gonzalo, Robert Taylor, Emerson Rodriguez, Jairo Quinteros is back. So we have got options to freshen up. Ariel Lester didn't obviously start today, so we've got options to freshen things up. But I would say I'm picking my strongest team, and it's a competition that we will not take for granted. This is going to be a real tough match against a team that we know how they're going to play. It's their cup final. It's a banana skin, similar to the FC Miami game, where we've got to be at our absolute best and our absolute strongest, and we can't take any liberties.
Okay, guys, it's time to preview Inter Miami's U.S. Open Cup match at home at Drive Pink Stadium against South Georgia Tormenta FC, and it's time to do so from the other side. So who better to help us preview the game than Tormenta FC head coach Ian Cameron, who is a very, very young head coach at 33 years old. Ian, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Doing grand. Thanks very much for having us. It's a privilege in our club. We appreciate the exposure.
Thank you for giving us the time to preview the game, because obviously Tormenta is a bit of an unknown for a lot of people in South Florida, a bit of a mystery in terms of what to expect. So who better to preview the game with than their head coach? Obviously, I don't expect you'll give us all the secrets that you have planned for Tuesday's game, but I will ask you, what kind of game should we expect overall? What type of game do you expect coming into South Florida? Inter Miami's has been, they've lost their last two, but they've been on a bit of a roll before that, so they've been inconsistent, but they've had some good moments as of late. What kind of game do you expect in a one-off match at Drive Pink Stadium in Fort Lauderdale?
Well, look, we know the quality of Inter Miami. Obviously, they're working through some things in the league just now, but they're certainly got a lot of quality throughout the field. They've got a great coaching staff. We have some familiarity with them, having played our second team last year in the USL 1 structure. So we know the organisation, we're familiar with the field and so forth. But certainly what you can expect from our boys is a full-blooded affair. We will go at them, we'll play, we'll be brave, we'll get numbers forward, we'll get numbers into the box, and we'll defend in the phases that we have to with rigour. Our boys are not going to be there to make up the numbers. They're going to have a right go at this game. They're going to make a really good account of themselves. And we're there to represent our organisation, to represent USL 1, and to represent individuals on the field. And we're really looking forward to the event.
And you guys are coming off a scoreless draw with Charlotte Independence, but you've had a decent start to the season. 2 wins, 2 draw, and 1 loss record. That's good enough for second place in the standings early, but a good start for you guys nonetheless. Now, for Inter Miami, they obviously played in the last round against Miami FC, another team that's in the USL pyramid. Inter Miami came out on top, but they had their struggles. Miami FC had their chances in that game. Have you had a chance yet to watch some of the tape, analyze that game, or are you're still in the midst of the preparation work?
Certainly still in the midst of preparation. I think all organisations, when you play every 3-4 days, you try not to get ahead of yourself. Sure. So after that last night's game, came home, the adrenaline running from the match, I always find it hard to get to sleep. So had the chance to sit and watch a couple of their games. One of them I watched the Miami game in the Open Cup in the last game, and then I watched the game against Charlotte. And look, the reality is, yeah, it was a tough game for them, and Miami FC had quite a few chances. But A, Miami are a very good team, and B, it's a real banana skin tie to go away from home to play some young boys on the field. I saw Noah Allen and so forth played. To go there to an away field with an organisation that's going to be chomping at the bit to try and beat you, especially a Miami derby, that screams of a banana skin. That screams of an upset. And to navigate that game, even if it wasn't their best performance, it's still quite impressive. So this is, if your league play is not where you want it to be, then Inter Miami will be looking at the Open Cup as another avenue to maybe propel their season, another avenue to try and get into the CONCACAF Champions League. And they'll be looking at a last 32 tie against the USL 1 structure and thinking, well, that's something that we should and can get through. Yeah. So it's our job to go there and do it and rewrite the game and do something different.
Now, as far as your team goes, I remember when the draw happened and you guys landed with Inter Miami for this matchup. The social media of Tormenta posted a video of your team, the players, watching the draw, and they were excited about the matchup. Obviously, like you said, you had a game on the weekend, so you're not going to... I'm sure they weren't looking too far ahead, but what's the sense you get about the team's overall mood heading into the game? Are they excited for this opportunity? Obviously, Inter Miami draws a lot of eyeballs because of ownership and the market. So, what's the state of your team, do you feel, heading into this Open Cup match?
Oh, look, it's a really cool tie for the organisation. I mean, it's a great stadium, a great fan base, and like you said, the hoopla that goes around the organisation with some notoriety they have with their ownership and so forth, and some of the key players they have. But our guys, I mean, I don't know their mindset yet. I mean, I know coming tomorrow, as we travel down there, they're going to be really focused. The last time I left them, last night, they were on a field really disappointed not to win a football game. We played well last night. We should have and could have won the game. And we're disappointed not to walk away with 3 points. So that's where they were when I left them. I know when I see them later on today and into tomorrow, they're going to be in a very different mindset. If they're not, it's my job to get them in the right mindset, but it's a mindset of disappointment. And then as soon as this turns around, when you have a frustrating game, there's nothing better to have another chance to get back on the field as quickly as possible. And there's not many more glamorous ties than having an MLS club away and everything that comes with that. So our boys are excited. When the draw was made, they were obviously really excited, but we did a good job of putting that aside. Being in the present in the moment, enjoying the moment, deserved it, and then putting that to the side, concentrating on the things that were ahead of us, blossom up where our feet are, and then and now it's time. Now it's time to get excited about it. Now we've got 2 days to mentally prepare. There's not much physical preparation because we played last night, so most of it will be tactical, most of it will be with video, and prepare ourselves to go out and give absolutely everything come Tuesday night.
So I was going to ask what the preparation is like for a game like this, because it's such a quick turnaround, right? You play Saturday night, Inter Miami played on Saturday night. You have a day of recovery work, I'm sure, for the players where they do some regeneration. And then Monday, the day before the game, light session, if much of just a run around. I mean, how do you approach it as a coach when there's such a quick turnaround in terms of the preparation? Is it what I just laid out, or do you guys do a bit more?
You're obviously a football guy because you know it. That's what it is. Yeah. It's less is more, right? Mm-hmm. It's the nice thing with our team and our boys is that we're not a team that really adapts too much to each opposition. Mm-hmm. We have a way of playing, both in possession and out of possession. We have a distinct style. We do what we do. And yes, there'll be minor tweaks, and we always try to respect the opponent, appreciate the opponent. Obviously, Inter Miami is a whole different level than we're used to. So that brings personnel things that we have to pay attention to. But at the same time, there's not any drastic changes or change in formation or anything that we'll be doing, and that maybe gives some away to Inter Miami, but we don't really care. We are what we are. We're going to try and be perfect at it this season, get better and better and better at it, and we'll go and give the best version of ourselves come Tuesday night. So we know what we're really good at. We know where we have to protect ourselves, and we're going to try to do that to the best of ability, no matter the opponent, on Tuesday night.
I'm sure your fans
which makes it easier.
I'm sure your fans will love to hear that, because it sounds like you're going to take a brave approach, not necessarily the pragmatic approach of sitting back and looking to counter. I mean, at least from what we're hearing. Obviously, when the ball rolls, it's a different. Well,
the boys have energy in the legs. That's what we'll be doing. And then I can't promise for 90 minutes we'll press the backside off them, but for there will be large periods of the game we'll certainly play. We will certainly press them. We will certainly make it a really combative game. And try to get bodies in behind their back line, in front of their back line, in their box. So that's what our fans have come to expect of us, and that's what the players have come to expect of themselves.
Now, obviously, as a coach, I know this might be a tricky question. So, obviously, again, a bit of a mystery for people in South Florida, generally speaking. Who are some of the players? I won't say key players, but I'll say who are some of the players that have been performing very, very well for you guys so far this season?
Well, look, our defensive record has been excellent so far, and we can't hide from that fact. We've had, I think, 5 clean sheets in a row, which for professional soccer, and that's against two USL Championship sides, the two teams that have been the perennial powerhouses within the USL One structure. But that really comes from the front all the way to the back. So the whole unit has been very, very good in that regard. I think in the Open Cup, we've got a couple of key goals that have been scored by our striker, Arthur Basur. We've got two strikers are very strong, but Arthur's got the nod in the Open Cup game so far for the heavier minutes. And he's managed to bag an important goal here and there for us. And I think he's got USL Championship experience, a little bit more experience at a higher level than some of the other younger boys we have. So we're going to depend on him a little bit on Tuesday night to try to bang one in for us and capitalise on the opportunities we get. We don't expect to have 10 to 15 quality chances that we might have in USL One game. We'll probably have, if we play to the best of our ability, we'll probably have 5 or 6 very good chances in the game. And we have to rely on those front guys to have the poise and be present in the moment to tuck one away. And that's, I don't expect to lose many goals. Now, I might be sitting here with pie in my face on Wednesday and we'll be thumped 5-0. That can happen when you're playing against a very quality opponent. But if I was a betting man, I wouldn't think our group's going to give up a whole lot. Inter Miami have got quality and can and maybe will score, but we anticipate if we can score 1 or 2, and then we'll be very much in this game. So we'll depend on him. We'll depend on Keziah Sterling coming off the bench potentially, or starting the game. We'll see how it goes on Tuesday night. But we'll rely on one of those guys to have the poise to put one home for us.
Are you a coach that likes to have the players prepare penalty kicks for a situation that could arise in this game? Obviously, if it's tied after the 90 minutes and then goes extra time and it's still tied, penalty kicks are on the horizon. So are you a coach that likes to have them prepare penalty kicks, or are you a coach that, there's obviously different philosophies. There's coaches that say you can't replicate the feeling of a penalty kick shootout in training when there's no fans in the stands, when there's not that much pressure. So are you a coach that will have the team practice penalty kicks, or will you not have them, and if that situation arises, then they just go into it as they do?
Well, I definitely subscribe to the notion that you can't replicate it.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, we practice penalties before the previous 2 Open Cup games.
Okay.
Yeah, we absolutely have. I mean, part of our mantra in our organisation is to be the most prepared team possible and be the most united team possible, and that's a bit of our slogan. And part of being prepared is nutrition, sleep, all these things are training sessions, but part of it is the tactical piece, and penalty kicks certainly fall into that. So we will probably, we have done it so far. We have a nice idea of who will probably take them, but we'll probably take a couple more on Tuesday night. And again, it's just the eye test.
Sure.
And guys often step up in Panenka and training and feel really good about themselves, and then come the game time, you're not quite sure whether they'll do that or they're not. So it's always a bit of element of that, but I certainly our staff see no harm in practicing these things and being prepared to the best of our ability, knowing that the heartbeat is going to be going thumping a little bit faster come the game time. But if that's the situation we're in, we'll have prepared for it, we'll have a mindset of it, and we'll have some last words, and it'll be a pretty cool moment, because that means we're potentially 5-6 kicks away from advancing, and that's a position that we'll certainly like to be in.
I love asking that question, because obviously with the way the seasons are structured, you don't get many situations where penalty kicks are possible, at least in the regular season. So I enjoy asking coaches that question just to pick their brain a little bit of what their individual philosophy is. Now, quickly to start rounding out and closing it out, what do you expect from Inter Miami at home? Now, it's a team, from my opinion, my analysis, that likes to counterattack. It doesn't necessarily feel the most comfortable when it has the ball. It does have dangerous players that are capable of unlocking a defense with the ball. But we saw against Miami FC, when they had the ball, they had struggle breaking Miami FC down. It's something that's happened over the course of the MLS season as well. Their strengths are more, and Phil Neville has said this, their strengths are more in when the other team comes at them and they leave those spaces in behind. They obviously have the speed with the likes of Ariel Lassiter, Robbie Robinson, DeAndre Yedlin, and now Indiana Vassilev as well, to get in behind, look for those crosses into Leonardo Campana if he plays, or Gonzalo Higuain if he's back in the lineup. So what do you expect from Inter Miami?
Yeah, look, I think it's a difficult tie, and it's a different dynamic because we're USL One, by the very nature of the type of players that they have, there is a golfing class, right? Mm-hmm. We're not hiding from that fact any stretch of the imagination. So, kind of like what you denoted, in most of the MLS play, it's hard to then decipher, okay, what will they look like against us? Because even though we'll press and even though we'll be really combative and engage them, they're still going to have us pinned back at times, and that's just the reality of the golfing class. So then there's not a whole ton of footage of them doing that to opposition. They had some nice phases against Charlotte on Saturday, but again, most of that came in transition or Charlotte turning the ball over in bad areas or bad zones and so forth. And like you said, the pace that they have is quite frightening watching it online. Hopefully maybe I was just watching a fast-forwarded version. Hopefully they're not as fast as I've been watching, but if they are, then we'll be ready for it best of our ability. But that dynamic is going to be interesting. It's a tough one for them to approach because it's not a normal game. The ego of the players is going to kick into where they'll want to take the game. They're not going to accept a game plan that's going to counter-attack against a USL 1 structure. It's just not. I'd be very, very surprised if it played out that way. So it'll be a kind of role reversal. Saturday we had 67% possession in our match, and Inter Miami, I think they were okay in possession-wise against Charlotte, but in most games they've been on the other side. Mm-hmm. But come Tuesday night, it'll be different. So that'll provide us opportunities to counter on them, and it'll also provide them opportunity to work on their build-up play, playing through lines and strangling us and so forth. So that dynamic of the game will be a little bit different for both sides. And we've certainly got a wee bit more experience on that end, having played higher opposition throughout this tournament. Sure. But for them, that could pose a little bit of a different problem to solve. And that kind of chess match will be a really interesting one. And I think you're right to kind of denote that factor as one of the key things to be watching out in this game, and what will certainly give it a lot of intrigue.
And then I have one more on a coaching philosophy standpoint, and this is maybe not necessarily X's and O's on the field, but I'm curious as the coach, because Phil Neville last game against Miami FC, we asked him what his approach was for the game. It was obviously a derby game, the first time that the Miami FC played against Inter Miami in a meaningful match, and he said he was going to go full strength lineup. He said he was going to go. They weren't in a position to not go full strength. And then when we saw the lineup, it was a bit more mixed, a bit rotated in terms of the personnel in the starting lineup. He has said now, leading into this game on Tuesday night, he's going to go full strength yet again. How much as a coach, as an opposing coach, do you put into what the coach that you're about to face says publicly? Do you fully buy in? Do you just listen to it and then make your judgments based on how you interpret it, or how do you view that as a head coach preparing for the next game?
No, look, we don't really give it much credence at all, to be honest. Again, some of the things from the kind of journalistic viewpoint is, some people he might have said he's playing the full strength team. People's opinion maybe say, oh, that's not their full strength team, but in their coaching staff's mind, that might have been the team that's performing the best during that week. So just even though there's preconceived notions of who is the best player, highest caliber player, who's played at the highest ring in the ladder and so forth, the coaching staff still sometimes see a certain lineup as the strongest team, and the fan base sometimes don't perceive it that way. Mm-hmm. But that all being said, we don't really give it much thought at all. Okay. We'll be focused on ourselves. There's certainly some characteristics of their players that we have to pay close attention to. Their strikers are fantastic football player. Both of the strikers that they have are fantastic football players. So certainly for the centre backs, we'll give them some details on what some of the habits are of certain guys, and there will be clips that will be given to guys for different permutations that come and different qualities that they have to face, especially in the attacking areas. But I would expect them to play full strength. I mean, the reality is the league play is not going where they wanted to go. And if they navigate this round against us, they're into the last 16. They're one of 16 teams left with a chance to win the Lamar Open Cup. And that's awesome. And everything that comes with it. So I anticipate they'll try and start the game very, very strong. Try and put this game to bed in the first half, put all the guns, and then see if they have the opportunity to rotate a little bit in the second half. Our job is to change that dynamic. Our job is to force their hand to where they either have to play more guys for longer, or the game's just a battle and then they have to make decisions on what they want to do. But again, we're not there to change the narrative for them. We're there to focus on our narrative. We have a journey, we have a story to tell for our community, for our organisation, for the boys that are playing under our stewardship. And we're there to not make it the numbers, but to try to do something special against the odds. And we plan to do so. We'll see.
Absolutely. And I asked that because Anthony Pulis, when we spoke to him after the last Open Cup game in Miami versus Miami FC, he said he was a bit surprised by the lineup they threw out there because he had heard the pregame comments from Phil Neville, and I guess he put stock into it that they would go full strength, and it was obviously a bit of a surprise when he saw the lineup. So I was just curious as to your approach to it. So just to round out, the final question I have for you is, you are a young head coach, and anyone that can hear, or anyone that's listening to this interview, probably can guess that you're from Scotland. Just a little bit of your backstory. How did you start how'd you get into coaching to start, and how'd you end up with South Georgia Tormenta? I know you played professionally, but just for people that maybe aren't familiar or as familiar with your background or your backstory, how did you get to this point as a young head coach? Because you could still be playing easily.
Well, I think sometimes you talk about young head coaches and older head coaches, but a lot of that's determined on when your coaching career starts, right? Mm-hmm. And for myself, most guys move out of the game for one or two reasons: either take a really bad injury and that prevents their professional career, or they just didn't quite hit the grade. And for myself, I just wasn't quite good enough to reach the heights that in the professional game, playing wise. And obviously things in my game, but at the same time, that's what propelled my coaching career quicker, right? So even though I'm maybe in coaching terms relatively young, sure, I've been around good coaches for quite a while. My dad had an indelible mark on my career, having been a professional footballer himself, and some of the philosophies that we share as a family. So that was kind of a catalyst for me. And then I came over to the college soccer system over here, and I was very grateful to Coach Brad Russo, who was my mentor through college games, and then gave me my first coaching job. And then quickly from there, I was given opportunities in this country, which I'm very grateful for, to take teams and try things and be part of organisations that gave young coaches a chance. And Darren, Nitra, and Jeff, and Elena, our owners, they provided me a chance at a very young age to take the reins of their professional club and try to mould it into the vision of our community. And it's something I'm very grateful for. And we've got a young coaching staff in general. Most of us are about the same age as myself. So we're young and dumb, and there's some things we're good at and they can relate with the players, and there's some things we don't know what we don't know yet. So there's certainly mistakes being made along the way. So it's a fun experience. Very grateful for the organisation for giving us this opportunity to do these things. And it's our job as young coaches on the staff to reward them for it, do something special with this group, and try to push the Tormenta brand forward and leave it better than we inherited it. And that's what we're working towards right now.
And I can't call you young without mentioning your age. You're 33 years old. 33, pretty young. But now, as a Glasgow-born person, I have to ask, Celtic or Rangers?
Well, my dad played football, so I used to he used to play for Partick Thistle and Aberdeen and St Mirren, a few different clubs. So I tended to support just the club that he played for. I'd have to say Partick Thistle is the third team in Glasgow. You might not know that. That was the team I'm probably most partial to and have the kind of strongest association with. But I'll be honest, I was absolutely delighted to see Rangers reach the cup final. I think it's amazing for Scottish football. Celtic have been incredibly strong in the league this year. So I played at Rangers as a youth player, so I've been around a lot of Old Firm matches and been around it, and most of my pals sit either way. But I just sit in the stands and just support Partick Thistle as my team. So
nice.
I'm low-key when it comes to that.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, Ian, thank you so much for the time and helping us preview Tuesday night's game between Inter Miami and Tormenta FC. Wish you the best of luck. We'll see how it all plays out. And again, thank you very much.
Thanks ever so much for having us. We appreciate you.
All right, we'll talk soon. We'll take a quick break, everybody. We'll come back after that, and we'll do the Q&A session, but we'll do that after this. Okay, guys, we hope you enjoyed those interviews. I thought the Drake Callender anecdote with regards to that preseason game in which he committed a couple of costly errors and that cost Inter Miami the game and has now catapulted his strong response. I thought that was a very interesting and very revealing and very insightful part of that interview. But I enjoyed both of those chats. I hope you guys did as well. Let's quickly jump into the Q&A session because we've gone long on this podcast. So let's just do a couple if that's okay. We're going to start with Fighting Herons. Did you find it odd that Vasilev went straight into the lineup after just arriving this week? He looked good but missed out on a couple of key opportunities to score. Steve, this goes back to what we talked about in the first segment.
No, I don't think so. I think they know what he brings. I think he did well in that first spell, and yeah, just that lack of options and just needed that spark. He's probably thinking, if he comes in, maybe he could provide a spark for Robbie Robinson, blah blah. And if Campagna wasn't 100% fit, then he'd give him more options. So no.
Okay. I will reiterate, I don't think it's odd. I just think it's a byproduct of Inter Miami and Phil Neville and his staff looking for more production in the final third because they're not getting enough of it consistently from Ariel Lassiter and Robbie Robinson. And when you're a team that relies on the service from the wings, you need more from those spots. So definitely think Indiana Vassilev is being looked at as a potential solution to more consistent play. Doesn't mean he's going to be the most consistent player you've ever seen on Inter Miami, but if he can give them more than Ariel Lassiter, one of Ariel Lassiter and Robbie Robinson are giving right now, then that's a positive for the South Florida side. Next one comes from Polish Miami. He said, I just wanted to congratulate Drake for such a solid performance against Charlotte, especially his positioning, which was top tier. He couldn't do much more to prevent them from scoring. So not really a question, more of a comment, and Drake Callender is no longer on the pod. So we'll relay the message, though. We'll relay the message. He's speaking in advance of the game against Tormenta. So we'll relay that message. Let's do one more here. Steve, and it's from Dos Nos. Gibbs was so poor in the final third, he missed 2 clear-cut opportunities and gave up defending on the goal. Considering we have Jovan Jones and McVeigh that can play that position, should we look to move him?
No, I mean, it's not his job to score goals, is it? I think he did pretty well. Remember, he's also coming back from an injury. We spoke to him last week. He was more excited about the basketball than anything else, I think. But he's coming back from injury. I think he just offers good width down that side. He's decent on the ball. Goals on his strong point. But if he can weigh in with 2 or 3 a season, then that's great. But yeah, just you could see he was so frustrated. I think after the second one, he really thought that felt that he should have scored. And it was a great opening for him. But no, I mean I don't think the other guys you just mentioned coming in would just guarantee that there's going to be goals as well. It's just it's not always a given, is it?
There's a couple things I want to touch on here from Dos Nos' question. Should they look to move him? I agree with you, Steve. I don't think so yet. There are questions as to whether he's injury prone because he has missed a lot of time since joining Inter Miami because of different injuries. So I if you want to move on from him because of that I would understand as more of an argument. But I liked what I saw from him in this game against the expansion side. Yes, he did not finish, and yes, he should have put at least one of them away. But like Steve said, unless you're very special type of fullback, you're not really counted on to score goals that often. That's not your forte. That's why you're a defender. If your forte was scoring goals, you'd probably be in the attacking third as a winger or somewhere else. So yes, he should have finished at least one of those. That would have changed the whole course of the game, the whole complexion of the game. But I liked what I saw in terms of the added football he gave the team. Now he gave them an overlapping fullback threat that they don't have on the left when Christopher McVeigh plays there, because Christopher McVeigh is more of a stay-at-home, unnatural left back. He's a center back. So I liked what I saw from Gibbs. He absolutely should have finished one of them. As for the giving up the goal, he gave up defending on the goal. He might have been tired at that point because, again, this was his first start in a while. And I think Phil Neville may have waited a bit too long to make that substitution. And Phil Neville makes the substitution of Jovan Jones for Kieran Gibbs immediately after the goal. Maybe that sub was coming. Maybe it was already in the works. But it came a tad bit too late because obviously Inter Miami gave up the game-winning goal. So I think Phil Neville has some responsibility as well for that goal that Charlotte FC scored. Although, again, great stuff from Jordi Reyna there on the left flank to attack the space and whipping the cross to the back post, and then Shinyashiki with a good finish. So we'll leave it there for the Q&A session. Primo, quickly give us your final thoughts. I'll give mine, and we'll wrap up the show after that.
Well, yeah, just a final thought going back to the Grand Prix. Miami was the centre of the sort of sporting globe. I know a lot of people here don't really appreciate F1 as much as people in Europe, but it just shows the pull, the sort of the celebrity pull of this area. And all these superstar, Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, the lot, Serena Williams, Venus Williams, and that is why
Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny, yeah. I mean, as long as Bad Bunny's there, Bad Bunny's a thing. But I think I had a shout in the week. James Rodriguez is on Inter Miami's radar. Of course, I'm sure there's a long way to go in that, but that just shows you that with this club, where they are and their ownership, they are going to attract the superstar names, which is brilliant for us and also great for the team and the fans. Now, whether or not they can get these deals over the line, James Rodriguez is playing in Qatar. He wants to leave. His wages potentially could be problematic. He's on about $8 million a year. So there's a few little hurdles, but there potentially could be a little bit of wiggle room depending what happens with Pizarro at the end of his loan spells. So bottom line is people want to come here. Big names will always be linked, and long may that continue.
My final thought is on history being made. An MLS team, yes, at long last won the CONCACAF Champions League. Of course, a Peruvian striker led the way in Raul Ruidiaz with 2 goals in the victory. Seattle Sounders beat Pumas 3-0 and 5-2 on aggregate at home last week on Wednesday night after we recorded to make MLS history again, the first MLS franchise to win the CCL, as it's also known for short. So kudos to Seattle Sounders. A big win, a big moment for soccer in the United States, a big moment for Major League Soccer, and it's a moment worth enjoying and celebrating if you're MLS. However, the bar has now been raised for MLS teams. This cannot be a one-off. This cannot be a one-time thing. This is now the standard, and this is something that teams have to strive for and push for on a consistent basis. It can't be another 15 years or 15 competitions before an MLS team wins another one of these. So you've hit a certain standard. Now you have to continue to strive to meet that standard on a consistent basis if you're MLS. But that does it for this first edition of the pod this week. We'll be back again later in the week to recap and analyze the match against Tormenta FC, and we'll preview the game against DC United that's coming up on the weekend. So, for Steve El Primo Brenner, I am Franco Panizo. You have been listening to Miami Total Futbol Radio, and we'll talk to you guys again in